a salon, luxury condos, luxury homes. There was no end to his greed.
It is said that the difference between a man and a boy is the price of his toys. Before Ed Oken had a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. Before he had 3 private jets. Before he had a 130-foot yacht. He was a chubby kid in Toronto. As the little boy called Eddie grows up, he does not grow tall. His adult height is 5'5". His stepbrother, Norman Griesdorf, thinks that explains a lot.
He was short, had a complex, had to prove that he was as big as his father or his family, and that he could do things. Not really interested in doing a lot of work, but interested in showing that he had success.
At the age of 21, Oken meets Carol May. They fall in love, and in a few years, they marry.
I met Eddie when I was 19 years old. He seemed like the kind of person that was going to go far in life.
The newlyweds stay in Toronto, where Oken tries his hand first as a music producer and then as a real estate investor. He even wants to make life easier for his in-laws.
He encouraged my father to perhaps take some of his retirement money and send it up to him. My father liked Eddie very much, and so he trusted him, and he sent up money, quite a bit of money at that time.
There is nothing to worry about. Young Eddie's investments seem to be doing well for him.
Probably just in the few years we were together, he bought 7 or 8 different cars. We had an Aston Martin, and we had a Mercedes, and we had a BMW, which is, you know, it's a bit much for a 22-year-old. It really was a bit much.
And there is more. They also have a yacht, the Endless Summer.
We even had a captain. The captain would stay on it all the time and take care of it and take it down to Florida with Eddie. I think it was his first taste of big living, and definitely liked it.
But the good times do not last long.
What happened was through, I guess, the last, maybe the 3rd or 4th year of our marriage, his personality really seemed to change, and he became angry, and he was always screaming at everyone, and including me and the dog, and it made me very uncomfortable. So I wanted to get out of the marriage.
Preparing to divorce Oken, Carol discovers that he is behind in payments on personal and business loans totaling $1.5 million. And she, as a co-signer, is expected to pay up.
The debt was overwhelming for anyone, but particularly someone who's 22 years old. I'd never worked. I didn't even have a job.
Carol settles with the banks, but things do not work out as well for her parents. They discover Ed did not invest their money. He spent it.
So that money was gone, and my father pressed charges. He pressed criminal charges. But he then withdrew those criminal charges because Eddie started making threats. And my father was afraid that maybe he would hurt me.
And now, as Oken has seemingly become an angry, frightening bully, he disappears, off to set up a new life in the USA.
And then he was gone. And nobody was really anxious to find him.
And 32 years later, in 2005, at the age of 54, he is on wife number 2 and owns a company called Investment Properties of America, which buys, sells, and manages shopping malls and industrial buildings.
How he portrayed himself was a successful real estate entrepreneur who could locate undervalued real estate, shopping malls, things like that, and then basically flip them and sell them for large profits.
Oken still likes big boats. In February, he attends a boat show in Fort Lauderdale, where he meets Simone Bolani.
Simone Bolani was from Brazil. She was a very attractive young woman in her mid-20s when she met Ed Oken. I believe she was one of the young ladies who was showing yachts to prospective buyers.
Oken tells friends he falls in love with Simone immediately, and soon he files for divorce from his second wife. He is robbing the cradle, and that's not all. Next on American Greed.
I'm the groom, and I love my wife.
Witness an over-the-top wedding, and you'll never guess who pays for it. At the start of 2005, Ed Oken seems at the top of his game. He is setting up a new life in Miami. He has a new girlfriend, Simone Bolani. And he has a new business, Investment Properties of America, known as IP of A, that owns and operates shopping malls and warehouses from Indiana to Louisiana. Its headquarters are in Richmond, Virginia, in a small office park 12 miles from downtown. There is just one continual problem for Oken. His company is not making money. He cannot pay his bills.
By 2005, his commercial real estate holdings were losing money at a rapid pace. There was actually documentary evidence that one of his largest properties was so cash-strapped that they didn't have enough money for gas for the security vehicles in the mall.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Michael Dry is part of a federal task force that investigates Oken. It includes agents from the Postal Inspection Service, the IRS, and the FBI.
In about 2005, his company was in a severe cash crisis, and he was going through a messy divorce. And at that time, he's ordered to pay $8 million to the wife through the divorce.
Mr. Oken was going to be fined $25,000 a day if the divorce settlement wasn't finalized. He was under enormous pressure to settle the divorce proceedings.
He also needs cash to shower Simone Bolani with anything and everything.
The jewelry, the clothing, the shopping. I mean, what we heard was that Ms. Bolani got whatever she wanted from Mr. Oken.
And that summer, as cash-strapped Oken searches for money, he finds it in Boston in a business called the Atlantic Exchange Company, known as AEC. It's a type of business called a qualified intermediary, known as a QI. The sole function of a QI is to hold money for real estate investors who want to defer paying capital gains taxes. According to the U.S. Tax Code, Section 1031, people who sell an investment property can defer taxes on their profits if they reinvest the money in 180 days and never touch the money. They must give their money temporarily to a qualified intermediary.
So if you're a client and you give your money to a qualified intermediary, you're not investing with a qualified intermediary. You're basically just saying, I'm giving you my money, hold my money. Within 180 days, I'm going to ask for that money back so I can buy a new property.
In the summer of 2005, Ed Oken looks at QI businesses and sees the answer to his problems.
Oh, these are gigantic piggy banks that just hold large amount of money, waiting for transactions.
At the time, AEC is holding roughly $170 million in what are called client exchange funds. And in August, Oken gets a loan, buys the Atlantic Exchange Company for $4 million, and immediately gets access to the nearly $170 million in customer money. Helping him with the transaction is a former paralegal, now his chief operating officer, Laura Coleman.
Were you his assistant?
Yes.
Were you
A glorified title. But yes, anything he asked was done.
Coleman did not respond to American Greed's request for an interview, but in a video deposition for use in a civil lawsuit, she explains how she helps Oken get the cash he needs from AEC.
Ed asked that all the money be moved to Richmond. I opened bank accounts at Bank of America. The money was transferred, and I would send out wires or issue checks, depending on what the transaction involved.
It's just that easy. Because as Brian Lefevre, a special agent with IRS Criminal Investigation, knows, no one regulates qualified intermediaries.
Qualified intermediary is not necessarily regulated like a bank. There are exchange agreements which govern what you're supposed to do with the money. However, you don't necessarily have someone looking over your shoulder to make sure you're abiding by the exchange agreements.
And so Oken and Coleman can take funds that were supposed to be in escrow and use them to pay Ed Oken's bills and to fund his fantasy life.
The day after he purchased the company, he writes a check to his ex-wife for $8 million.
He then took money from the depositors that was in AEC and used it to pay back the loan that he had taken to purchase AEC.
And just 8 days after he buys AEC, he takes $4.1 million and uses it to close on this house on Miami's prestigious Hibiscus Island. Finally, the piece de resistance. In November, he puts $8.6 million of AEC's client money toward the purchase of a 130-foot yacht.
He kept a full crew, two stewardesses and a captain on full staff. It was beautifully furnished and was very exquisite on the inside.
He names the yacht after his bride-to-be, Simone. They are married in December.
I'm the groom. And I love my wife. And I can't believe she married me.
The wedding, like almost everything these days, is paid out of the AEC account, more than $200,000. No expense is spared for Simone. In months to come, Oken will buy her clothes, jewelry, even her own hair salon, reportedly, so she doesn't have to wait for an appointment. And she is giving him what he calls the best dream of his life.
We're expecting a baby. And we found out last Wednesday it's a little boy. So that should make our yacht broker, Paul Moran, very happy because there's a sequel coming, so he's going to buy a boat.
It's as if the money will never run out. And for a while in Richmond, all is going well. Although Oken is taking money out of AEC, the well-established business continues to draw customers, and their new deposits cover the closings of people who put their money in months earlier.
Now, have you ever heard any term used to describe a situation where you take new funds and use it to pay prior transactions?
Yes, ma'am. It's
What
a Ponzi
term?
scheme.
I'm sorry?
A Ponzi scheme.
And was there a Ponzi scheme going on in the QIs owned by Oken?
Yes, ma'am.
By the end of 2005, Oken has taken an estimated $55 million in client exchange funds. And at that time, Oken finds himself in that inevitable spot where every Ponzi scheme leads.
What had happened by then is he had depleted the client exchange funds so much out of AEC that the new client exchange funds couldn't keep up with all the obligations from the prior clients.
It's time for Ed Oken to find new cash flow. Next on American Greed, the outrageous demands of working for Ed Oken.
People couldn't get their work done because they were off buying diapers and cigarettes and baby formula and FedExing it to New Hampshire because he didn't want to go to a grocery store.
Outside Washington, D.C., in Silver Spring, Maryland, video editor Bonnie Schluss is trying to build a retirement fund. The bulk of the money in her nest egg came from her sister, Linda, who died of leukemia at the age of 42.
I really would have preferred to have my sister, but she was gone. She had worked at an ad agency, become a partner, and had some money that she left. And in some ways, this was her taking care of me.
At first, Schluss used the money Linda left to buy a rental property nearby her home. She is now looking to diversify and wants to sell the building. She estimates that her capital gains tax will be $50,000.
And that was a lot of money for me. So I decided I would try and pay part of the taxes and defer the rest by buying another investment property. And there were regulations to it. You had to give it to what they called a qualified intermediary, which seemed fine to me. The government's telling me to do this.
Schluss looks online for a qualified intermediary and finds one nearby. It's called Security 1031 Services, headquartered in Connecticut, known as SOS. What she does not know is that Ed Oken has purchased SOS from its owner, a lawyer named Todd Pajonas.
Oken came in, bought the company, and soon after that made Todd Pajonas the CEO of 1031 Tax Group, which was a company created, a kind of umbrella that would hold all the qualified intermediaries that Oken was purchasing.
When Pajonas goes to work for Oken, Oken tells him that he has borrowed money from AEC to invest in real estate, and he has a standard answer for how he will pay it back.
I'm selling them all. I've got a great deal in the works. I'm going to make $100 million on this. Everybody's going to be whole. That's what he kept saying over and over again.
But the malls he says he will sell are mortgaged to the max. IP of A properties are losing as much as $900,000 a month. So Oken uses QI funds to cover the loss and to buy more toys.
You know, you name it, Mr. Oken bought almost any sports car you can imagine.
He bought 3 jets, luxury condos, luxury homes.
And the QI accounts get frighteningly low. In March, Pajonas writes to Oken that our reserves are below 10 million, a dangerous level. If we don't get some money, we will be staring into an empty vault.
Pajonas understood that if you miss one exchange, if one client is at a closing table and doesn't get their money, that basically no other clients in the future are ever going to give you their money.
And so he keeps the emails coming. In April, he writes, "We are one wire transfer away from oblivion." Oken's response? He buys a $10 million house on Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. He buys Simone a $36,000 diamond necklace and an $86,000 diamond ring. And in July, he sends an email to Laura Coleman showing her our new toy. Check it. Only $800,000. It's a helicopter.
Did you ever observe when you were working with Mr. Oken him being wasteful with the money?
Yes. Everything was wasteful. I mean, everything from the loans he obtained to overpaying for real estate to, we had opportunities in my Richmond office where people couldn't get their work done because they were off buying diapers and cigarettes and baby formula and FedExing it to New Hampshire because he didn't want to go to a grocery store.
But for Oken, there are no worries because there is no need for the money to ever run out.
It was a never-ending pool of money as long as when the money got short, Mr. Oken could find another qualified intermediary to buy.
And that is just what he does. This summer, he purchases 3 more.
Generally, he paid for all of the QIs except for one with other client exchange funds. He never really brought his own money to the table.
And then in August, an accountant discovers that Oken purchased 2 Florida condominiums with AEC funds. He tells Todd Pajonas.
And this is when Pajonas has a eureka moment. Oh my God, this isn't just Ed investing this in commercial real estate. Mr. Oken is using this for his own luxury lifestyle.
And so at this point, Papa Jonas is sounding the alarm. He's jumping up and down.
There was a part in the trial where I asked Papa Jonas, were you worried about this? And he leaned forward and he said, I was scared every day I woke up.
Finally, in September, Pajonas calls for a meeting on the Simone. He is determined to force Oken to sign promissory notes that will guarantee that he will pay back the money.
Todd was livid. I mean, he was almost violent. I actually thought that there would be a physical altercation on the boat. And they were screaming and yelling and cussing at each other. And Todd said he'd kill him. He had to sign it right now.
And was Mr. Oken reluctant to sign this document?
He didn't want to sign it. He didn't want to sign any of it.
And he did, in fact, sign it.
He did.
Okay.
And Oken does pay back a small percentage to the qualified intermediaries. But a few months after the meeting on the yacht, an internal accounting shows that a staggering $118 million is missing from the QIs. But Jonas writes to Lara Coleman, Ed may have millions of dollars at stake, but we have our lives, reputations, family, and freedom at stake. This man will be the ruin of us all. Next on American Greed. Oken's own lawyers let him know he is probably breaking the law.
He went apoplectic initially, and his initial response was, need to fire these folks.
In the fall of 2006, in Richmond, at the offices of Investment Properties of America, Eric Perkins is a fairly new in-house attorney. Things are going well for him until October, when he learns disturbing news that his boss, Ed Oken, is borrowing money from escrow accounts. He asks his supervisor, Chief Operating Officer Lara Coleman, about it.
And her response was, there aren't any loans. And she said there may have been a couple in the past, but those have been paid off.
It is, of course, a lie. Oken has taken millions of QI dollars that he has never paid back. And then Coleman tells Perkins another lie.
On top of that, the whole practice of that had been vetted and approved by a number of outside firms.
Oken kept going from day one. Don't worry, I have a legal opinion. I have a legal opinion that says I can do this.
Perkins looks into it and finds that Oken has received all kinds of legal advice on this. Even starting in 2005, when he bought AEC, the language is straightforward. AEC should not be in the business of lending money.
It became clear at some point in that time frame that I'd been lied to.
As he continues his research, Perkins learns that the IRS does not regulate qualified intermediaries. What protects the customers is the contract they sign, called an exchange agreement.
Most of the time, those exchange agreements provide that the funds need to be held either in a financial institution, in an escrow account, or a segregated account.
It's obvious to Eric Perkins. Ed Oken is violating his customers' contracts.
We weren't talking about a situation where someone is driving 68 miles per hour in a 65 zone. The companies were going 120 in a school zone.
In November, Perkins and other in-house advisors write a memo to Ed Oken and Lara Coleman, making their views loud and clear that Ed Oken could face criminal prosecution.
Basically, the memo says, you got to stop, you got to pay all the money back. It was a very forceful memo, putting everybody on notice. These are my conclusions.
Ed Oken is outraged.
He went apoplectic initially, and his initial response upon receiving it was, need to fire these folks.
He sends an email. This guy will not run my business. I want him terminated tomorrow. And he looks to a Richmond law firm for another opinion. He soon gets the answer. The firm writes that his conduct could result in civil and criminal liability. He is told to pay back the money, and they add, we will cease to render any professional services. Meanwhile, Perkins makes the decision to submit his letter of resignation to Oken.
What he did was as senseless as it was callous, as it was stupid. I mean, you just can't find a rhyme or a reason for why he did this.
And as Perkins walks out the door, Todd Pajonas is not far behind. In November, a closing comes due and money is short. Pajonas starts screaming again.
It's unclear completely whether it was a mutual firing and quitting, but that was Pajonas's last day in the office. Oken had the locks changed, ordered everybody not to let Pajonas back on site.
Weeks before, Pajonas negotiated a severance package for close to $1 million with Oken. It contains a confidentiality agreement. After months of working to stop Oken from raiding the QI accounts, Pajonas knows there is nothing more he can do. And Ed Oken sets his sights on another qualified intermediary.
Even though he's told to pay the money back and he's told that this is criminal, Ed goes out and buys another qualified intermediary. He needs a new piggy bank.
Coming up, Oken attempts to woo his victims with a stunning claim to fame.
And he said that when Sly and the Family Stone were playing at Woodstock, Ed was the drummer there. And you're just going, wow, this guy's amazing.
But you wouldn't like him when he's angry. Read Oken's irate emails at americangreed.cnbc.com. Feeling greedy? Want more than your share of behind-the-scenes dirt? Follow at American Greed TV on Twitter. We'll be right back. Of all the stories about Ed Oken's greed, the one that for many tops them all takes place in January 2007 when he hosts a dinner party for 6 at a restaurant in the Bahamas. He owes close to $120 million to his own customers' accounts, and he can't make his own payroll. But he serves cognac that costs more than $1,000 a shot. The bill for the dinner comes to $56,000. Some call his behavior reckless. Michael Dry disagrees.
Reckless would be the understatement of the year to describe Ed Oken. It wasn't reckless. It was a total disregard for what he was doing with other people's money and the destruction in people's lives that his behavior was risking on a daily basis.
People like Candace Graham in Portola Valley, California. She has just sold the building where she ran a business with her ex-husband. She wants to take the $3.1 million she made on the sale and invest it in multiple properties.
And I was in my 50s, and I was beginning to think of, how will I retire? And it just was not safe to have everything in one place.
She puts the money into a QI called 1031 Advance, located in San Jose, California. It is owned by a woman named Janet DeShiel, who has just met Ed Oken.
He's like, oh, you're a QI, I buy QIs. I kind of laughed, and he's an odd little man, and he's just kind of frenetic.
DeShiel's QI is holding approximately $30 million, and Ed Oken, low on cash, wants access to that money.
And why did Oken buy 1031 Advance?
It was supposed to be a short-term fix to the liquidity problem because he was going to blow exchanges. He wasn't going to be able to pay old exchangers.
And so Oken invites DeShiel and her partner to a meeting on the Simone.
The gentleman who met us was the captain. His name was Captain Jack, and he gave us the full tour. At one point, he stopped us and says, "See this picture?" And it was a picture of Sly and the Family Stone. And he said that Ed was a drummer. And when Sly and the Family Stone were playing at Woodstock, Ed was the drummer there. And you're just going, wow, this guy's amazing.
Oken arrives on board and offers to pay DeShiel whatever she wants for her business, and also offers her the job of running all of his QIs. She accepts.
He mentioned to her that a small percentage of client exchange funds were invested in commercial real estate, but he assured her that it was a very small percentage and that the client exchange agreements allowed for it.
And he said he'd gotten legal opinions, that his attorneys had blessed it, that there are no problems with it.
At first, Oken borrows $2 million, then another $8 million for investments. And then one day, his accountant slips up and tells DeShiel that money is actually needed to cover payroll at his real estate companies.
When I found out the $700,000 had been used to pay bills and it wasn't in an investment, in any way secured, I knew everything was wrong. And I knew clearly that they'd been lying to me.
As DeShiel considers what to do, she comes up with a plan to force Oken to pay the money back. She opens a secret bank account and begins to send new customers deposits there.
Why I did that is I wanted to stop putting money in their alleged cookie jar. I sincerely believed that Ed Oken had that money. He had properties. He had all these exotic cars. I'd seen them. And I thought, okay, I stop the flow, they'll start putting the money back because they have to in order for the exchanges to keep going forward.
But then she learns Oken is negotiating to buy two items. One is another Gulfstream jet, and the other is one more qualified intermediary.
And that QI company held between $900 million and $1 billion. And she realized if he gets his hands on this, she knew what was going to happen.
And so in April, just 4 months after she began working for him, Janet DeShiel goes to Washington, D.C. and blows the whistle on Ed Oken.
I was escorted by 3 attorneys into a windowless room in the federal building and poured out my story to them.
The feds ask her to return to Oken's Richmond office wearing a hidden video camera.
The federal agents wired me up, and then I took a cab in, then walked through the offices to give them like a visual map of where everything was. So I'd pop my head in and say, "Hi, Kathy, hi, such and such. What are you doing in here?"
And a short time later, Janet DeShiel resigns, and Oken's offices in Richmond receive some unexpected visitors.
I don't even know how many federal agents showed up at the offices, guns drawn, bulletproof vests, and herded everybody into a conference room.
At that time, across the country, hundreds of Oken's unsuspecting customers like Bonnie Schluss believe their money is safe. Schluss has $335,000 in one of Oken's QIs and is making plans to buy a condo hotel in Hollywood, Florida.
That is the view looking out from my room.
And she is not the least bit worried about her money.
The 1031 agreement says right at the beginning, Section 2, exchange account. SOS 1031 agrees to establish an exchange escrow account. And it never occurred to me that the money could be taken out of an escrow account.
Next on American Greed, a desperate victim calls Oken, demanding her money.
I got a phone recording that was a music recording that said, "I'm too sexy for my shirt," basically, over and over again. And then I really knew I was dealing with a complete disaster.
In April 2007, as federal agents are raiding Ed Oken's office, Candace Graham in California is ready to move forward buying an investment property. She has $3.1 million with Janet DeShiel's qualified intermediary, and she calls DeShiel's office to let her know that she will need her money.
She was not in the office, and the office staff hemmed and hawed, and finally, after much questioning, I found out she was no longer with the company.
Graham learns that DeShiel has sold her company to Ed Oken.
When I tried to call Ed Oken, I got a phone recording that was very, very strange, and it was a music recording that said, "I'm too sexy for my shirt," basically over and over again. And then I really knew I was dealing with a complete disaster.
In time, she learns that Oken is under federal investigation, and the money that she thought was safely in escrow is gone.
I absolutely panicked. This is everything I had worked for my entire life. And I didn't know what to do. It just was devastating.
At that time, outside Washington, D.C., Bonnie Schluss gets the same news.
And I said, wait a minute, how could this possibly happen? I did what the government told me to do. I put it in an escrow account that had a bond on it.
She is not alone. As many as 250 people think their money is safely on deposit in Oken's qualified intermediaries when the plug is finally pulled on his game.
Many of the victims lost their life savings. I mean, they counted on these investment properties as income so that they could retire, so that they could pay bills, so that they could send their kids to college. I mean, these were horribly sad stories.
For months, in his bunker on Hibiscus Island, Oken is still hoping to avoid prosecution. And he keeps up the story. He can get a loan. He will pay everything back. And even today, in a telephone interview with American Greed, he makes this same claim.
I was recapitalizing all of my real estate with a $250 million loan to pay off whatever I owed the QIs, shut them down, and be able to go acquire more real estate.
But Oken has no ability to get a loan. Later, the findings of a bankruptcy trustee discover that even the yacht has an $8 million loan against it. Ed Oken is out of money. And that explains his next step, which is reported to the feds in March of 2008.
The team received a phone call from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office indicating that Mr. Oken and Simone had just traveled to Palm Beach County from Miami to pawn approximately $1 million worth of jewelry, and they received about $200,000 back from that pawn. And we became very concerned that Mr. Oken had become desperate and was preparing to flee.
Immediately, the investigators prepare a 27-count indictment charging Oken with conspiracy to commit mail-and wire fraud and money laundering. He is arrested at his house on Hibiscus Island a few days later and is adamant that he has done nothing wrong.
Mr. Oken now portrays himself as a victim of a rogue system, a rogue prosecutor, rogue postal inspectors, folks who didn't follow the rules. And he just keeps blaming everyone but himself.
Oken maintains that recent court decisions support his case.
I was advised I could do this, and I can't, as the law now proves. The qualified intermediary owns the property and owns the funds outright. Because we own them, we are allowed to use and invest the funds in any manner we see fit without any restriction.
And he points out he never missed a closing until the feds ruined everything.
As long as you could meet your closing demands, there's nothing restricted or regulated about this business, and you can basically invest it in whatever you want.
For Oken, that's a defense. For his victims, it's an outrage.
There's no excuse for this. This is an industry that the government created. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there's no regulations on it, and I've been the victim of it. The qualified intermediary is not a qualified intermediary. It's just somebody who is not a disqualified intermediary.
Since 2008, settlements from bankruptcy and class action lawsuits against Okun's banks and insurance companies have brought in almost 70% of the money he took. And now Okun's victims are working on behalf of future victims. Bonnie Schluss is constantly trying to meet with members of Congress to ask for stronger regulation.
My goal is so it doesn't happen to anybody else. You know, there's no excuse for it. There are simple changes that could be made in the law to make it safer.
Back in Richmond, Lara Coleman pleads guilty to conspiring to commit wire and mail fraud. She is sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Ed Okun believes he is innocent and stands trial in March 2009. Bonnie Schluss is there every day.
He was never sorry. He never once said he was sorry. Even at the trial, he was given a chance to say anything. He said nothing. He watched all of us. And no emotion, no nothing.
Okun is convicted on all counts. At his sentencing hearing, there is a surprise witness, his first wife.
I went to the sentencing because they might think that this was new behavior. And of course, I knew that it really was part of his personality. And this is who he was. And he had been like this a long time.
After hearing from Okun's victims directly, the judge hands down a sentence that will mean life in prison for Ed Okun. In August, he is sentenced to 100 years.
A lot of people I've heard say, well, murderers don't get that. Why does that happen? But the problem is they don't understand. You've got hundreds of people that have had their dreams stolen by this man. And he doesn't have the decency to apologize or to empathize or to say, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Jones. He takes $5.5 million into his investment funds, but his clients don't see the dark soul behind this shining facade.
Unfortunately, the best crooks are also the best salespeople.
Albany, New York. Real estate investment company Rivertown Financial claims to be dedicated to rescuing desperate homeowners from foreclosure. But in 2008, one of the company's employees, Tony Urbanus, senses something is wrong. Over and over again, homeowners who have enlisted Rivertown's help receive notices that their homes are on the cusp of being taken away, yet again. Urbanus digs through Rivertown's paperwork to find out why, and sees one suspicious transaction after another.
There's just too much information that I was gathering that was not registering as being proper.
He uncovers falsified loan applications and title transfers not filed with the county. When he confronts the company owner, Jeffrey Goldman, about his concerns, he gets no response. At least not right away. A couple of days later, his phone rings.
They had called me on a conference call to fire me, and they all started laughing at me. And that really bothered me. So I said, well, laugh when the Attorney Generals are knocking on your door.
When the Attorney General's office investigates, they find a company in shambles, a family split apart, and dozens of homeowners facing possible eviction from their homes. When Katie White begins working at Rivertown Financial as a paralegal in 2005, the fledgling enterprise consists of only company owner Jeff Goldman, his younger brother Jonathan, and attorney Kevin Wheatley. Though modest in size, White says the company is brazen in its ambition. And no one's brassier than its owner, Jeff Goldman.
He was very outspoken about his confidence. Nobody could ever touch him. Nobody was better than him, and he was going to rule the real estate world.
Tony Urbanus begins working for Rivertown Financial in 2006.
He was a heck of a salesperson. You can see that. There was a belief system in what he was promoting. He was promoting his product.
His product is an innovation he creates for distressed homeowners called the Lease Back Program. He hypes it to Urbanus as the ultimate win-win real estate innovation, a way to turn a profit while helping homeowners facing foreclosure save their homes.
Their premise was, are you in foreclosure? We can help you out. Are you having a tough time? We can help you out. Everything that has to do with we can help you out.
In theory, Rivertown would basically rent out the home to the homeowner. They would purchase the home from the homeowner, and the homeowner would pay a certain amount of money monthly as you were renting a property, and Rivertown would maintain the home and pay taxes, any outstanding liens on the home, and then eventually, once the homeowner got their financials together, they would purchase the home back from Rivertown.
The homeowner agrees to pay more to repurchase the home than what Rivertown pays them. But in theory, everyone walks away happy. The homeowners stay in their homes, and Rivertown turns a profit on the resales, plus on the rent they collect in the interim.
I feel comfortable by telling people that, you can do this. You may pay more, but this is all working towards your future good. And people understood that, and they were willing to do it.
In my estimation and how I felt is like, okay, the house is mine. They're just going to help me out for a year, and everything will be back to normal.
June and Donald Buckland have lived in their two-story home in Yonkers, New York since 1988. They've raised a son there and paid their mortgage faithfully for more than 15 years. But in 2005, a car accident suddenly leaves both of them unable to work.
I had gotten all the ribs, just about all my ribs on my right side were broken. So I was out of work for a pretty long time. My husband also became disabled, and we decided that we were going to try to refinance to sort of help us out.
Rivertown Financial offers hope. Jeff Goldman and attorney Kevin Wheatley meet with the Bucklands and explain the Lease Back Program.
We told them all our problems, and they were very sympathetic, and they were ready and willing to work with us.
Unfortunately for the Bucklands and nearly 50 other homeowners signing up for the Lease Back Program, Rivertown isn't working with them, they're working them over. Rivertown promises that the equity still remaining from the sale will be kept in trust and applied to the down payment when the client repurchases their home. But that doesn't happen.
Jeffrey would purchase the home from them. He would pay off any debts most of them had. And then he would take the remainder of the equity in the home and pocket the money for himself.
The Bucklands supposedly have $148,000 of equity waiting in trust from their sale. They'll never see it again. And that's not the only matter of trust that Goldman will betray. When American Greed returns, the married Goldman falls under the influence of an attractive new hire, and the company descends into chaos.
She wanted control of the company. She wanted it to be her company.
In Albany, New York, real estate investor Jeffrey Goldman claims he can be a savior for homeowners facing foreclosure. His company, Rivertown Financial, enlists dozens of homeowners into their Lease Back Program. But nothing is as it seems.
It was done very unprofessionally. In the very beginning, the salespeople would meet. They would sit down and have a very professional meeting. Towards the end, it got to be Jeffrey just saying, basically, give me your money.
Rivertown Financial tells clients that the equity from their home will be held in trust for them, but it's actually just being funneled into their own bank account. Reporter Robert Gavin covers Rivertown Financial for the Times-Union in Albany.
That's stealing.
Really, that's when it comes down to it, that's what you're doing. You're stealing money.
It's not just Jeff Goldman. His brother Jonathan and staff attorney Kevin Wheatley conspire against their clients as well and reap the benefits.
They started gambling a lot, going away on expensive vacations. They were purchasing Porsches, BMWs. They were out partying all times of the evening, and they'd come in. You could tell that they'd been out partying for quite some time.
There was money that went for like wine lockers. There was money that went on a cruise. I think there was a trip to Antigua. This is where the money from destitute people, this is what it paid for.
Audrey and James Williams move into their 5-bedroom home in Mount Vernon, New York in 2002. They have a $223,000 mortgage that they pay regularly. But in 2007, they fall on hard times.
I was getting a little bit sick and I didn't know why, so I was missing time from work. And the doctors couldn't find why, I was sick.
Doctors come to discover Williams has ovarian cancer. It means chemotherapy 5 times a week, and Audrey can't continue working. It's a strain on their budget. But they want to keep the house that they've invested so much in, and that promises to secure their future as well.
We bought our house for $230,000 in 2007. The house was estimated between $400,000 to $600,000. And we thought we were sitting on a gold mine. No way we were going to let this house go. This was our retirement fund. So we decided then we needed to lower the mortgage. So in the process of looking and making phone calls, these people turned up.
These people are none other than Rivertown Financial. The Williams aren't interested in the lease-back program, just a simple refinance, and Rivertown says they can help. When it comes time to make the deal, Jeff Goldman makes a personal appearance.
When they walked in, and I remember looking at him, he had jeans and pink shirt, and he had these nice Italian loafers on, and I thought to myself, oh my God.
Bloodshot, red eyes.
Yeah, and James says, this doesn't feel right.
Despite misgivings about Goldman, the deal is too good to pass up.
It was just strictly refinancing, and we would go from a $2,100 per month mortgage, including our insurance and taxes, to a $1,500 per month mortgage, including insurance and taxes. That was the understanding of it.
But at the closing, Goldman doesn't bring refinancing paperwork. He brings sales paperwork. It's something a lawyer would notice immediately. But Goldman convinces the Williams they don't need a lawyer.
It was so smooth. This is a simple transaction. You don't need a lawyer because lawyer's going to cost you all this money. And we knew better. But it was like looking a gift horse in the mouth, It was so good.
The Williams leave the closing thinking they have refinanced for $270,000, when in reality, they've just sold their home. Rivertown then uses the home to take out a $367,000 mortgage. The extra $100,000 from the purchase, the Williams don't see a dime. To make matters worse, thanks to their executives' extravagant spending, Rivertown Financial isn't making all their mortgage payments, and loans are going into default.
It got to the point where they were calling people whose homes were sold to Rivertown, calling, I'm getting notices my mortgage is not getting paid, I'm getting notices my taxes aren't getting paid, it's in our agreement you were going to pay these, and I'm going to lose my home now for good.
The company's office dynamics are in upheaval as well, with the introduction of a new employee, 24-year-old Jessica Perrier.
She was hired as a marketing person. However, gradually her role changed completely, and she kind of ended up more as, I guess you would say, an assistant to Jeffrey, into a role where they became very close and started dating.
According to White and Tony Urbanus, the affair between Perrier and the married Jeff Goldman is no secret around the office.
They were, peanut butter and jelly. They were always together.
He was buying her expensive things, taking her out, wining and dining her, and it was very, very evident.
Inside the office, however, Perrier's arrival drives a wedge in the relationships of the Goldman brothers and attorney Kevin Wheatley.
Jessica kind of broke up the boys' club. Her opinion counted more at this point than Jonathan's opinion or Kevin's opinion.
It leaves White and Urbina's with the sense that the company is coming undone at the seams. Jeffrey's younger brother, Jonathan, quits abruptly. And on top of that, the leaseback program is falling apart. White and Urbina's begin putting their heads together to get to the bottom of it.
We just knew something was not going on right. We could tell.
There's a lot of money coming in on a monthly basis from all the different clients.
And it wasn't going towards the intended purpose. It was going into gambling and partying instead.
But the party's about to end. When American Greed returns, White and Urbina's bring the Attorney General's office to Rivertown's door for a $5.7 million fraud. But in court, it's a sibling rivalry that takes center stage.
It was exactly like watching a child, the way he talked about his brother. I mean, this is like something out of the Brady Bunch, not something you expect to see in Albany County Court.
In Albany, New York, Tony Urbina's and Katie White are doing some amateur sleuthing into their employer, Rivertown Financial. And they don't like what they see.
And doing some math, tens of thousands of dollars coming in on a monthly basis for all those properties. And the monies were not going towards paying the mortgages, paying the insurances, paying the taxes on each and every one of those properties. So it's just going into a big kitty.
Neither of them knows the exact mechanics of the fraud, but in 2008, they take it upon themselves to reveal the inner workings of the company.
I mean, when you start adding the blatant spending of monies on high-end toys, on trips, on lavish parties, I was not liking things at that point.
Urbina's confronts Goldman about his concerns, but gets no response, other than that conference call from Goldman and Wheatley telling him he's fired. Hours later, Urbina's contacts the New York Attorney General's office and blows the whistle on a possible fraud at Rivertown Financial.
So it was very easy for me, and I don't know if it was for you as well.
I didn't have to think twice.
No.
It was definitely what I thought was the right decision.
It was the right decision. It was.
Once the Attorney General starts its investigation, Jeff Goldman can apparently see the writing on the wall. By the end of 2008, with dozens of clients depending on Rivertown to save their homes and Rivertown's bank accounts drained by their lavish spending, Goldman shuts the company down. Since enrolling in Rivertown's lease-back program in 2006, June Buckland has endured heartbreaking traumas again and again. In 2007, her 99-year-old mother-in-law is living with her and her husband when he dies suddenly of a heart attack.
So that left my mother-in-law and myself. And I was working 2 full-time jobs. So I had a 9-to-5 job and a 5:30 to 2:30, sometimes 3 o'clock job.
During this turbulent time, Buckland injures herself at her night job at a local casino and can no longer work there. She collects workman's compensation but has trouble making ends meet. Then in 2012, Buckland comes face to face with Rivertown's final crippling injustice.
There was a notice on the door saying that the property is now owned by Fannie Mae, and I'm to contact them.
Rivertown still owes $390,000 on the mortgage they took out when buying Buckland's house. Even though Buckland had been paying rent faithfully to Rivertown for years, with Rivertown gone, she's left with no real recourse.
And it was stuck right in here. There was a notice on the door saying that I have to evacuate the house in a matter of days.
On January 17, 2013, Fannie Mae takes ownership of the house she's spent nearly 3 decades making into a home.
Yeah, a lot of memories. A lot of memories, yeah. We have been through quite a bit in that house. Yeah.
Audrey and James Williams know how she feels. Fannie Mae also owns the loan that Rivertown took out on their home. But the Williams protest that the loan was obtained fraudulently.
Fannie Mae lawyer says, we don't care. We don't want to hear about it. You want to stay in your house. You want your house. You'll give us over $500,000.
Fannie Mae declined to comment to American Greed. But the circumstances piled tremendous stress on Williams, who continues to get chemotherapy treatments 5 times a week for her ovarian cancer. Then, just after Christmas 2013, the Williams get their eviction notice.
This was my home. This is not my home anymore. They took it from me.
James and Audrey Williams returned to their old home for the first time a month after their eviction.
This was my porch that we used to sit. We had our furniture out here. And
watch the world go by.
I painted this whole house myself. All this I did off my own, with my own hands. The end result is what we are now. I'm at my mom's house. It's not a good look.
In the springtime, I'll come get my plants.
No.
I have to wait until the springtime.
Yeah. Can't do nothing now.
No, it's too cold.
It's been one nightmare after nightmare after nightmare. And we're still going through nightmares. I didn't know it was going to be so hard coming here.
It's all gone. Just take your life.
More than 50 Rivertown clients and lenders are affected by Rivertown's fraud that cost at least $5.7 million. Jeffrey Goldman pleads guilty to grand larceny and scheming to defraud. On December 5th, 2011, he stands before an Albany County judge for sentencing.
I don't know that I've ever seen a guilty plea and sentence quite like Jeffrey Goldman. He actually said the words, "I'm a good person, and while I have committed crimes, I'm not a criminal." And by the way, my brother who's cooperated in this, everyone thinks he's the good guy and I'm the bad guy, but that's not really like that. And then on top of all that, he said, what I take issue with in this case are the exaggerated claims of fraud perpetuated against the homeowners. Most of the allegations are blatantly false. That's not something you hear at criminal sentencing. You pled guilty.
His brazen attempt to justify himself does not impress the judge. Goldman receives 4 to 12 years in prison. His co-conspirators also get time, including his brother Jonathan, 16 months to 4 years for scheming to defraud. Kevin Wheatling, 3.5 to 10.5 years for grand larceny and scheming to defraud. And Jessica Perrier, 1 to 3 years for grand larceny. The 4 are ordered to pay a total of almost $5.7 million in restitution. But with all their money squandered on their lifestyles, it'll be a long road to pay it all back.
We get a check every month between $3 and change to $7 and change. We had a huge one in September.
That was the $67?
$67. Wow.
County of Albany. $7.20. It is the amount of this check. Written out to June and Don in Buckland.
I know, James. What can I say to you?
I don't know.
One day at a time. Just one day at a time. One day at a time. I know you don't want to hear that sometimes, but me? Look at me.
What?
One day at a time.
Yeah, one day at a time.
Up next, a Nashville financial advisor wants his company's name in lights and doesn't care who gets slammed to pay for it.
I had found out later that they worked on disabled children. It's kind of like, how could you do this to someone?
In the summer of 2010, LaDonna from a friend. He says one of Elkin's clients, Aaron Valette, is in the news.
According to federal officials, Valette spent some of his...
While we were chatting on the phone, because we always catch up, I literally was Googling everything while we were on the phone together. And I was floored.
Elkin's company does record keeping for A.D. Valette & Company, a financial advisory firm in Nashville, which has just been slapped with a civil complaint from the Securities and Exchange Commission for allegedly running a $5.5 million fraud.
Honestly, my immediate thought was, oh my God, that is why he called me to transfer the money.
Just months earlier, Valette had Elkins transfer nearly $900,000 out of clients' 401k plans and into his brokerage account. And now she fears she may have unwittingly allowed Valette to steal investors' retirement savings.
I really did kind of think twice, but at the same time, I'm like, well, this is Aaron. He's the president of the company. I don't want to lose my job, but hindsight, if I knew what was going on, I would have lost my job that day.
Clients pick us because they know when they come to seek financial advice or portfolio management, we are going to put into action all of the products, all the process, all the services that we feel are necessary to accomplish the very specific objectives to the client.
The star of this promotional video is Nashville native Aaron Valette, who is just 28 years old when he opens A.D. Valette & Company in 2006, and his sights are set on becoming a major player in the financial planning world. Wesley Washington meets Valette through mutual friends a few years before Valette starts the company. Even then, however, Washington says Valette's drive to succeed is obvious.
He would work and call me early in the morning and call me late in the evening. He was pretty much working.
The two quickly become friends. And around 2007, Valette suggests that Washington transfer his entire investment portfolio over to his management.
And I was fully on board with all that because, again, he had done well by me as far as being trustworthy, and everything I knew about him seemed on the up and up.
We're going to find out what is important to our clients, and we're going to be able to advise, consult, and help place those services and products to our clients, whatever that may be.
By 2008, Valette has dozens of clients like Washington taking fees for managing and offering advice on 401ks, IRAs, and general investment portfolios. But that's not enough for the self-promoting entrepreneur trying to burst onto the scene. He opens up his own investment fund called the Collateral Fund.
The 3-month secured short-term note would return 5%. If you were willing to go up to a year, it would return 6%.
Sean Murnahan and Graham Loomis are attorneys with the Securities and Exchange Commission in Atlanta. They say the returns Valette promises are high, but not outrageous. What concerns them is the guarantee.
Well, anytime someone tells you that your money is fully guaranteed and safe, and you're going to get returns that are better than the market, that's a warning. It's very rare that you get good returns and safety in the same investment.
Over the next year and a half, Valette opens 2 more funds and charms clients into investing $5.5 million into the 3 funds combined. But practically none of it goes where he promises.
Mr. Valette used his family members, friends that he had known for sometimes long periods of time, and convinced them that he could invest their money and provide them with a very substantial return. And that didn't happen. He didn't invest that money. He used it for his own personal gain.
When American Greed returns, a charity that runs a camp for sick children is a perfect opportunity for the insatiable Mr. Valette. Was this the first time that Valette operated on the wrong side of the law? Find out at AmericanGreed.cnbc.com. Feeling greedy? Want more than your share of behind-the-scenes dirt? Follow us at American Greed TV on Twitter. We'll be right back. In Music City, USA, Nashville, Tennessee, financial advisor Aaron Vallette is putting on the performance of his life.
A.D. Vallette and Company, everything financial.
He saw building this brand, A.D. Vallette brand, to be a big brand. He saw himself being the next Edward Jones.
We provide everything financial. We want to be a one-stop shop, full-service financial services company.
A.D. Vallette & Company handles companies' payrolls, manages their 401ks, and oversees individuals' investment portfolios. But to be a household name, he needs to raise his profile. In 2009, he pays $320,000 to become known as the exclusive investment advisor of the local NHL team, the Nashville Predators. And he has bigger goals in mind.
He told me he had first right of refusal to name the whole center. If he wanted it, it could be the A.D. Vallette Center when that contract came up. And that's what his plan was.
Of course, he's building his brand on the backs of his investors.
None of the money was invested as he represented. The money went to run his business and to otherwise engage in a very lavish lifestyle.
We saw transfers out to his country club. We saw a check written to buy a motorcycle.
He went and bought a very big house on Franklin Road, which is a really well-established neighborhood.
He buys the house for $750,000 and then gets a $1.4 million loan to renovate it.
He was doing well, and all indications that, as far as what I understood, it was all above board.
It's far from above board. But up until late 2009, Vallette has only been stealing money from investors in his collateral funds. His advisory clients, people with IRAs, 401ks, and investment portfolios, people like Wesley Washington, have been spared. But that changes for Washington in 2009 when he has some extra money to work with.
I sold a house in Nashville, and I had a lot of equity in that house. I had $100,000 equity in that house. And so I had that cash to invest.
As a commission-based job recruiter and a brand new father, Washington emphasizes to Vallette that he needs a secure and accessible investment.
I had to keep this cash liquid. I had to keep it safe. I couldn't put it in anything risky. I might need it. I mean, I might need it, all of it.
A young father himself, Vallette says he understands Washington's situation and comes back with a plan.
And this plan had 8 steps, and the first step was to put this cash to work.
Vallette recommends putting the $100,000 in the safety of his collateral fund. It seems to be exactly what Washington is looking for.
I remember a statement specifically from him when he said, "This will be protected by the insurances that protect me." And that was good enough for me. I didn't have a reason not to trust him, so that was where it went.
But that's not where the money stays.
It was pretty clear from the bank records. You could see money coming in by wire transfer, and then the next day or that day, the same money would go back out, or a smaller amount, but it would go right back out to the country club.
But even all the money in the collateral fund can't cover how much Vallette spends. Roger Murdy is a retired Army colonel.
Jenna, what are we doing?
In February 2008, he opens a charity 70 miles from Nashville called the Center for Courageous Kids, a camp for children with serious medical conditions.
Here we do chemotherapy, we do dialysis, we do infusion for hemophiliacs, insulin for diabetics, whatever care they're going to need to get through the weekend or the week of summer camp, we're able to provide.
It not only gives these children an opportunity to play, but to see their conditions in whole new ways.
They're with 125 other children with the same condition. They can see that there's life after every procedure in these illnesses, and it's a wonderful place for friendships to be born. So everybody here this weekend has a child with a cardiac issue, either a heart transplant, pacemaker, recently replaced valves, whatever it might be. We know we can't cure what these children have or fix what they have. Our job is to give them the best week or weekend of their lives, and most of the time we accomplish our mission.
In the fall of 2008, Murdy is looking for someone to manage a 401k program for his employees and finds Aaron Vallette.
He seemed like a very conscientious young man, who had a successful business plan and a successful business, and we were looking forward to becoming part of it.
Just a few weeks after meeting him, 17 employees of Courageous Kids have their 401ks under Vallette's management, including Murdy and his wife. And the relationship goes both ways. Vallette seems genuinely interested in helping Murdy's charity.
He donated to us the use of his suite at the then Sommet Center, and on that particular night that he offered it to us, Miley Cyrus was going to give a concert, and we were able to use this as an auction item at a special event, and it raised over $6,000. So we were thrilled.
He wouldn't be as thrilled if he knew what Aaron Vallette was doing behind the scenes. By the end of 2009, he's burned through most of the money from his collateral fund investors. Now he's set his sights on the 401k clients. He reaches out to the company handling his record keeping with a request.
December 2009, I had gotten a call from Aaron, and he told me that one of the clients wants to transfer money out of their 401k account into a brokerage or an outside asset brokerage account because I'm going to be managing their money on the outside.
Elkin says it's a common practice. The problem is, Vallette is lying. The client knows nothing about the transfer. Vallette is simply taking the money from the 401k to put into his own business account to spend as he pleases.
About 2 weeks later, same thing. You know, this person's wanting me to advise them on the assets outside of the plan. We need to go ahead and have that money transferred to the 80 Vallette Financial Group.
He pulls the scam on 12 different investors for a total of almost $900,000, including transferring $59,000 out of Roger Murdy's 401k without his permission. On client statements, the transfer is simply listed as an outside brokerage, but the balance of the 401k itself doesn't appear depleted. Murdy confesses that he doesn't notice the change on his account, but one of Vallette's clients does and alerts the Tennessee Department of Securities of a possible fraud at A.D. Vallette and Company.
They were paying attention. It took one person with one call to start the ball rolling.
When American greed returns, law enforcement surrounds Vallette from all sides. But he doesn't seem sorry, just sorry for himself.
Now, does he really believe that he's the victim? I mean, it's my money that's gone.
By early 2010, financial advisor Aaron Vallette is reaching into his clients' pockets to feed his company's image and his personal lifestyle. But according to John Webb at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Nashville, he slipped his hand into one account too many.
Someone expressed some concern and filed a complaint with the Tennessee Department of Commerce and the Division of Securities. And when that happened, then the investigation started.
The Tennessee Securities Division contacts FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, which starts to dig into Vallette's records. They quickly find that Vallette's collateral fund has no collateral.
Without his client's money, he's worth practically nothing because he's living off the clients and the money that they invest. He's operating his business off of the clients and the money that they invest. He has very little money of his own.
But his clients do have money, and Vallette tries to pretend it's his.
Mr. Vallette attempted to use the income statements of two of his clients in order to head off the investigation.
So it gives him the fidelity statement, but cleverly basically just whited out the name of the investor and put his own name on the line. But yet he keeps the account balance the same, so it makes it look like he has $5 million sitting in his account. So it was a very easy step, a basic investigatory step. FINRA called the brokerage firm and asked them to provide the original account statements for these. Lo and behold, that when it comes to them, they see it's the name of the client, not Mr. Vallette.
FINRA alerts the SEC, which begins its own investigation.
It's a very basic step. We get the bank records because those don't lie. That's where we saw the investor money was coming into the account and going out to pay his personal expenses.
On June 2nd, 2010, the SEC files a civil complaint in federal court in Nashville. and the judge issues a temporary restraining order against A.D. Vallette and Company. When LaDonna Elkins finds out, she immediately gets on the phone to warn Vallette's clients.
My initial fear was that they could think I had something to do with this. But then immediately, it's like, I really don't care. I'm calling them. They need to know this.
One of the calls goes to Roger Murdy's CFO, who discovers that Vallette took $59,000 from Murdy's 401k account. Murdy calls Vallette soon after to ask about the transfer. He suspects Vallette will lie to him and gives him just enough rope to hang himself.
He said, basically, I'm sorry, that's an oversight on my part. I should have had you fill out forms for that. Let me send the forms to you. And you can sign them before the transfer took place, so predate these forms.
Asking Murdy to predate the forms is an obvious attempt by Vallette to cover his tracks, not to mention illegal. He even tries to sweeten the pot.
She said, oh, by the way, would you like to borrow my suite and you can auction it off again for a Justin Bieber concert? Well, I thought this was magnificent, but it's a little late at this point.
Wesley Washington had previously taken $15,000 out of his investment in the collateral fund. But after hearing about the complaint, he wants Vallette to explain what's happened to the $85,000 he left in there.
He said, all your money's in there. It's frozen right now, but it'll give me a month. It'll be taken care of, and you'll get all your money back.
Washington was saving that money for his and his family's future, and for the possibility of starting his own business. He wants to believe it when his friend tells him it's not lost, but it gets harder with each passing day.
I was holding out hope for that I'd get my money back, and that the money was actually there. And then, of course, there's that just sinking feeling that, you've been swindled.
Washington appears to grasp the situation much more firmly than Vallette himself.
I remember the last time talking to him, and he was hurt. It was almost like he was hurt, like he was the victim. And I just remember thinking, and quit trying to sell me on your innocence. It's time to, just fess up.
It's a type of delusion that Sean Murnahan sees personally. During a meeting at the courthouse, Vallette harkens back to his college days in Colorado.
He reveals during the course of our conversation that he had at one point been essentially a ski bum. And he made a comment that, he guessed at this point he would have to go back to doing that. And it became clear to me that he didn't realize how serious it was. He didn't understand he was likely going to jail.
More than likely. In February 2012, the U.S. Attorney's Office files criminal charges against Vallette. And Wesley Washington finally gets his wish to see him fess up. Vallette pleads guilty to 16 counts of mail fraud, wire fraud, and theft, and is sentenced to 10 years in prison. Thanks to a federal law requiring 401k plans to be backed by a fidelity bond, all of Vallette's 401ers stick their clients with the bill.
What dawns on me is nobody's going to get a dime back ever.
And later, Miami accountant Juan Carlos Rodriguez promises to make his friends rich.
He was like a brother to my husband. I mean, truly, my husband considered him to be family.
He offers them a guaranteed investment in blue chip stocks, but this is no way to treat a brother.
It really was, in every way, a complete ripoff.
Instead of delivering the big fat rate he promises, Rodriguez betrays those closest to him.
This man who has been her friend for 20 plus years took her entire life savings and bolted with it.
Winnetka, Illinois, one of Chicago's wealthiest suburbs. Most mornings here are quiet. But in the second-floor offices of One World Capital Group, a foreign currency exchange, the atmosphere on June 15, 2007 is anything but calm. Investors have heard unsettling rumors, and they're flooding the company with requests to pull their money.
Every 5 minutes, the fax machine would ring and spit out a new redemption request. And people would call and they would ask, when's this going to be processed? It's just a crazy day.
It is Jared Boyer's second week at One World. Today, the results of a routine audit have set off a panic, and the staff is anxious.
People were just scared. 70% of the business all walking out the door at once. Scary times.
But when Boyer pays a visit to the firm's accountant, his worst fears are realized.
I walked into her office and she looked really pale. And she says, I just don't have enough money to pay all these people.
A Forex dealer like One World should never have a problem repaying its customers. Accounts are held in trust until a customer authorizes a trade.
Customer's money isn't supposed to be touched. It should always be there. This shouldn't be an issue at all.
But client funds are missing, and One World is on the verge of a $16 million collapse.
I'd been working there for 2 weeks at that point, and I started really to wonder what I'd gotten myself into.
In 2005, One World Capital Group is just a dream of 40-year-old Charles Martin. Martin works in Chicago's renowned futures trading industry. At the time, computers are taking over the jobs once held by humans on a trading floor. As positions become scarce, Martin decides to reinvent his career in the Forex, or foreign exchange market. Sue Herrera, financial journalist and co-anchor of CNBC's Power Lunch, knows this market well.
The foreign exchange market is the biggest market in the world. It's bigger than the stock market. It's bigger than what's called the futures markets. It's also one of the most volatile markets in the world.
And with great risk comes great reward. Each day, major banks and brokerage firms trade upwards of $3 trillion, betting it all on the rise and fall of currencies around the globe. With a brokerage of his own, Martin could take a small piece of this very big pie.
You want a piece of what's the most lucrative, and at times, the foreign exchange market is incredibly lucrative.
But the National Futures Association, or NFA, requires $250,000 in capital to start a Forex brokerage. So Martin approaches Jack Walsh, a co-worker 17 years his senior, about partnering up. The two couldn't be more different.
Charles was the most overbearing, boisterous, just had to be the center of attention at all times. And Jack was a jeans and a collared shirt type of guy who enjoyed his scotch and really just hung out in the back of the scenes.
But the odd couple manages to put together the cash. And in 2005, Walsh, the quiet behind-the-scenes guy, officially registers One World Capital Group with the NFA. Oddly, he leaves his boisterous partner Charles Martin's name out of the paperwork. They set up shop in the Chicago suburb of Winnetka. Now they just need customers.
Freedom Rocks would like to welcome you to the world of zero guesswork investing.
Mark Vincelet is the founder of Freedom Rocks, a multi-level marketing company based in Las Vegas. In 2005, Freedom Rocks purports to educate its subscribers about speculating in the Forex market. The idea is to make this complicated, high-risk trading more accessible to retail investors.
There were thousands of people all over the world, and we joined in together, and we went through some of the ups and downs in the markets, but we've had a pretty good time over the years.
As his members grow into the thousands, Vincelet needs more brokers to handle all the trades. One World Capital seems legitimate, and Vincelet recommends it to his subscribers. According to Boyer, the influx of business puts One World on the map.
Freedom Rocks was huge to One World. They were easily, 50 to 70% of all of One World's accounts. And without them, One World wasn't much of a business.
One World is up and running. Within a year, the broker amasses $34 million in customer deposits. And it's not long before Charles Martin flaunts his newfound success. Patrick O'Neill owns Little Ricky's, a bar just down the street from One World's office.
Charles would pull up every day with a different car. It'd either be the red Ferrari, the black Bentley, it would be the Denali, the Escalade. He had a fancy BMW.
An ongoing comedy, basically.
Along with customer Denny Niles and bar manager Marie Albrecht, O'Neill recalls Martin's lavish tipping at the restaurant.
Pretty regularly.
He would throw the girls $100, and $100 were his
Standard.
Yeah. The carry-out people, as Marie said, were tripping over each other, trying to fight to take care of them.
Oh, he's mine tonight. He's mine tonight.
Take turns.
Martin's partner, Jack Walsh, also enjoys the comforts of their new life. He buys this $1.5 million house. The duo's outward success is comforting to potential clients. This woman, who we'll call Judy, handles the trades for dozens of Forex investors. In 2006, she gets a recommendation to move her clients' accounts to One World. She appears in silhouette due to her role as an unnamed witness in the later investigation.
When you see lavish spending like that, maybe it should be a red flag, but it really wasn't. To me, it just said, oh, they're doing great.
Judy speaks with Jack Walsh about trading through One World.
He was very friendly. He was very open. I did not get the impression that he was a super expert in the Forex in particular, but I really didn't care because he had a staff to handle all that.
Comforted by Walsh's professionalism, she migrates her clients' accounts.
I wound up transferring somewhere between 80 and 100 accounts, probably worth $1 million, maybe a little bit more.
In addition, she and her husband put a portion of their own savings, some $125,000, in the new brokerage. All the funds are deposited into what's called a margin account at One World. And as long as Judy's trades are successful, that money belongs to her, not One World.
They should never have access to your funds unless you have given them explicit access to your funds.
It's untouchable, or at least it's supposed to be. Next, a routine audit reveals missing money and a sordid past.
He had a felony drug conviction dating back from the 90s.
And Judy is seeing red.
I view Jack and Charles as two clowns, two idiots that didn't know how good they had it.
In early 2007, Charles Martin and Jack Walsh are riding high on the success of their Forex trading brokerage, One World Capital. But Martin, the much more flamboyant of the two, apparently isn't satisfied with the life of a Forex trader. He uses his newfound fortune to live a movie star lifestyle. At Little Ricky's, Martin's favorite bar, his friends recall his outrageous stories about flying private jets to celebrity charity events.
He lived so large that every time he'd go out of town, he'd come back and have stories about people he'd spent time with.
I think he liked to think that he was part of that group as well. I think that was his goal in life, is to become a superstar.
Yeah, his voicemail on his phone was Sylvester Stallone saying, Charles is not in, please leave him a message. And I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
In February, he rents a luxury box to watch the Chicago Bears in Super Bowl 41. Friends say Martin, seen here at an event in New York, invites Vanessa Manillo and her future husband Nick Lachey to join him. In May, Martin sponsors a charity event in Las Vegas. According to Denny Niles, who tags along, it's a celebrity-filled weekend.
Tiger Woods and that whole group, and John Bon Jovi and his group, and Hootie the Blowfish. Yeah, I was there for 4 days, and it was nonstop celebrities.
Just next door to Little Ricky's, Martin opens his own film production company.
Charles's office was decadent. He had $25,000 desks filled with expensive wine, cognac, Johnny Walker Blue. He wanted to impress, and it was impressive.
He invests in an independent film called Breaking Point, starring Tom Berenger and rapper Busta Rhymes.
Why you even asking me about this for? I ain't seen her in a long while.
Shot on location in New York, Martin lavishes money on the film and its stars. Boyer recalls a time Martin's more conservative partner Jack Walsh confronted Martin about an unexpected charge at a hotel incurred by one of the film's stars.
There was $20,000 worth of damage, and Jack said, well, we're not paying for this. And Charles said, well, you got to keep the talent happy.
Martin may fancy himself a hotshot producer, but perhaps he should be paying more attention to his Forex brokerage. In June 2007, the National Futures Association completes a routine audit of One World's records. It's the first crack in a facade that will soon come crumbling down. The report states that Charles Martin is ineligible to work in the Forex industry. FBI Special Agent Brent Potter explains.
The NFA audit found out that he wasn't even supposed to be there because he had a felony drug conviction dating back from the 90s, and as a result was officially barred by the NFA from any official position with a futures commission merchant or a Forex dealer.
Martin was arrested in 1996 for cocaine possession, so his partner Walsh deliberately kept Martin's name off the books when he registered One World with the NFA. But when NFA auditors started dropping in on One World's office, Martin had to take cover.
Martin was in the habit of actually showing up at the One World Capital offices early in the morning and checking in with some of the staff that was there, and then beating feet over to his office a few blocks away in Winnetka, staying there for the remainder of the day while the NFA audit staff was on site, and then returning to the office sometimes after hours to again check in with Walsh or some of the other employees.
But in interviews with clients, NFA auditors have learned that Martin is a de facto partner at One World. His game of hide and seek is over. And there's more. Mark Vincelet's Freedom Rocks subscribers account for more than half of One World's client base. When he reviews the NFA report, he learns that customer money is being siphoned for company expenses.
There were two things in the audit report that were primarily troubling. The first one was that they were having a hard time accounting for customer funds. And the second one was that there was an allegation they might be mixing the customer funds with corporate funds. And both of those are an absolute no-no in the brokering world.
On June 15th, he tells his members what he's learned.
We wanted to make sure that people could understand what was going on, that these were not normal allegations, and that they could make the best decision about what to do with their money.
That day, Freedom Rock subscribers flood One World with requests to withdraw their funds. Martin does his best to stop the panic. He says the money is simply stored in offshore accounts.
Charles would always say he had money at HSBC Hong Kong, and he had money at Credit Suisse and all these foreign banks that, that were overseas.
One World staggers along after the Freedom Rocks traders pull out, and eventually the panic subsides. But Jared Boyer just can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. One morning in late July, he confronts Martin about the shortfall in customer accounts.
I see Charles walking down the street with his Starbucks in hand, and I walked up to him and said, Charles, I need to see the money. I need to see it. Can I see it? And he said, no. And I said, well, I can't work here anymore then. And he patted me on the back and wished me well and said, just leave without making too much noise. And so I did.
Even to his friends at Little Ricky's, it's obvious that there's trouble with Charles Martin. His car's not as flashy. His tips, not so big.
I just saw his wife driving all of a sudden a minivan and it wasn't a brand new minivan. And then he had a nanny that used to drive a Range Rover. All of a sudden, she's in a car that looks like a kid's college car.
And the tips went, from what the server said, the tips stopped coming in at 100. They started coming in at 50 and down.
As summer turns to fall, Forex account manager Judy gets a call from a fellow One World client. He says One World is late paying out his $100,000 redemption. She gets Walsh on the phone.
I called Jack and said, listen, my friend said that he's been trying to get money out. And Jack says, oh, I'm sure that's not a problem. I'll look into it. And he called me back and said, oh, no, it's not a problem. He'll have his wire tomorrow.
But the wire doesn't come. Instead, over the next few weeks, Judy's friend is met with a string of excuses.
There was always a problem. The girl who did the wires was sick that day. They lost it in the shuffle and they had to request the wire again. Whatever, on and on and on, day after day after day.
Something is very wrong at One World, and Judy has a pit in her stomach.
What dawns on me is nobody's going to get a dime back ever. We have almost $8 million tied up, and we're not going to get any of it back.
Next, find out where Martin is really putting all those dollar bills.
He would go up to a private room with some of his friends. They would have a number of strippers to themselves.
On December 6th, Judy, a Forex accounts manager and One World client, sees something she's never seen before.
On any given day when I come to my trading screen, this is the column I care about the most, and it's the one I look at first. It's the margin level. It should be uniform all the way down my screen, right around 1,000%, and that tells me that all these accounts are vested equally.
But that day, her screen looks different.
All of these blank lines here tell me that these accounts have been manipulated. They've been drained and stopped out.
It can only mean one thing.
Someone at the other end is taking the money out of these accounts right in front of my eyes.
Judy calls the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC.
And I said, I can show you a crime in progress right now.
On December 13, 2007, the CFTC issues an injunction freezing One World's assets. They contact the FBI, and Special Agent Brent Potter is assigned to the case. The situation is dire.
They had something well under $100,000 as far as capital on hand, but customer liabilities were approaching $20 million. So there was no way that they had enough money to repay their clients.
Potter teams up with Special Agent Jason Gibson from IRS Criminal Investigations to determine where the money went.
We reviewed bank statements, credit cards, we conducted witness interviews, we tracked down every dollar that we could possibly see coming out of One World Capital Group.
The two soon realized that Jack Walsh and Charles Martin have simply been helping themselves to the customers' margin accounts.
What you could see is that money being posted by the customers for margin was essentially just being taken right out and being paid largely to Walsh in the form of wire transfers to his personal bank account.
From there, Walsh wired money to Charles Martin's account.
And from Charles Martin's account, there was spending to extremes that I've never seen before in my career.
The total damage? More than $10 million.
Charles Martin bought a Bentley,
Ferrari,
Suburban,
Land Rover,
BMW, spent $280,000 on commercial airfare in addition to the $1 million in private flight time.
Around $1 million at elite hotels.
$50,000 at toy stores.
$30,000 at an area liquor store.
Over $100,000 at an electronics store.
Sets of underwear from a company called Brioni that retailed for over $250.
Martin even manages to spend $1 million at a strip club in Manhattan.
He would spend well in excess of $10,000 a night there. He would go up to a private room with some of his friends. They would have a number of strippers to themselves.
All the while, Martin and Walsh have been paying redemption requests using other clients' money.
From the moment an investor came in, their initial deposits were turned around and used to fund redemptions for existing One World clients. So their money didn't even, in some cases, sit in One World's account for the whole day after they deposited the funds. It almost defies imagination.
In January 2009, agents arrest Martin and Walsh. They're charged with wire fraud. Special Agent Potter interviews Martin in custody. Potter asks why he stole his client's money. Martin says they'd lose it anyway.
Martin was of the opinion traders would lose all or nearly all of their funds within about 2 or 3 weeks. He just figured, I'll steal it before they have a chance to lose it, and they'll never know the difference.
Meanwhile, Jack Walsh claims he was duped by his partner.
Walsh essentially professed ignorance as to what was going on. He was just trying to keep the books as best he could, and Martin was primarily the one spending all the money that had been siphoned out of customer trading accounts.
In May 2011, Martin and Walsh each plead guilty to 3 counts of fraud and tax evasion. Martin is sentenced to 17 years in federal prison. Walsh gets 12 and a half. Agents seize countless pieces of antique furniture, sports memorabilia, and other toys belonging to Martin and Walsh. But they're worth just a fraction of the $16 million they owe more than 1,000 investors. Judy personally loses $1 million to One World, in addition to the funds of her 312 clients. At the same time, she and her husband are hit with another unexpected blow.
We had 3 sources of income. One was trading the Forex itself. The second one was I did charge a fee to trade for my clients, and that was extremely lucrative as well. And then the third, we both had full-time jobs with a company that declared bankruptcy themselves, and our pensions were reduced about 90%. So we were wiped out.
She and her husband declare bankruptcy and lose their dream home in foreclosure.
My husband put 6 years, at least, of this into his life. He hand-built this house from the bottom up, this beautiful, gorgeous house, and we lost it.
Ultimately, Judy blames Martin and Walsh's insatiable greed for ruining hundreds of lives.
I view Jack and Charles as 2 clowns, 2 idiots that didn't know how good they had it. And they were too greedy to just let it ride as the business that it was.
Coming up next, a Miami money manager commits the ultimate betrayal.
You got a guy who looks a dying man in the eyes and the woman who he loves and professes that he's going to look after her, the whole while knows that he has absolutely no intention of doing that.
October 27, 2010. In this Miami strip mall, Araceli Mercy Valle reports to her regular job as an assistant at an accounting firm called Varez Tax. Michael Haber is her attorney.
October 27th is a day just like any other day. Mercy opens the office, fires up the photocopier, gets everything ready to rock and roll, and business begins as usual. The only difference between that day and any other day is JC never shows up for work.
JC is Juan Carlos Rodriguez, her boss, a tax expert and financial advisor. He's a CPA, but today he's MIA. Valle has known him for more than 20 years, and since the recent death of her husband, he has been Valle's pillar of strength.
JC became somewhat of a confidant for Araceli. He became somebody that she could ask very interpersonal questions to, somebody who she could rely upon to help her in her most dire hour.
But it's just one of JC's 2 faces, at least according to the clients who are showing up today looking for him.
Where is JC? Why is JC not here? I need to talk to JC. If I don't talk to JC right now, I'm going to the FBI.
They claim Rodriguez owes them money, and a lot of it. Valle herself has her entire savings, $125,000, invested with her boss. Confused, she frantically tries to get a hold of him.
Calling, texting, texting, even going so far as to try and call JC's wife and text JC's wife, because he's not responding to Araceli at this point either. So Araceli is getting more and more concerned by the moment.
Finally, at about 1:30 p.m., she gets a response. It reads, "I am so sorry. I ruined your finances and betrayed your trust and love as a sister to me. I let you down big time, and I feel really bad."
I think something clicks, and she finally realizes that this man who has been her friend, her brother for 20 plus years, took her entire life savings and bolted with it.
Before he opened an accounting office, Rodriguez was a comptroller at an aircraft repair company in Miami. Rodriguez was a sort of social director among the predominantly male workers. Mildred Giraldo's husband worked there. She recalls the name they adopted for themselves, the Dudes.
Juan Carlos was seen as the organizer of everything that they did. They would go to Dolphin games, football games, NASCAR, concerts, vacation. They turn everything into some type of a function. And that's how the Dudes came to be, as they like to call themselves.
As leader, Rodriguez earns a level of trust in the Brotherhood.
They trusted him implicitly. They were brothers. I believe they looked up to him a lot.
In 2001, Rodriguez leaves the repair shop to join his brother's CPA business called Varez Tax. Naturally, his old friends become his new clients. And according to FBI Special Agent Cade Cannon, Rodriguez offers them more than just tax advice.
People who'd come into Varez to have their taxes done at the end of the year, he'd say, "Hey, I have a way that you can earn money to pay any tax liabilities. I will invest your money in the stock market, and I will guarantee you a rate of return."
Through a company he calls MDN Financial, Rodriguez claims to invest in stocks, bonds, and precious metals. If investors leave their money with him for 6 months to a year, they earn a guaranteed check every month. Hernan Mejia is one of the Dudes. When he cashes out his pension in 2009, he and his wife, Ophelia, meet with Rodriguez.
We did trust him a lot, and since we trust him, that's the reason why we also had him do our income tax, our yearly income tax.
Rodriguez tells them they can avoid paying taxes on the money by rolling it over into his MDN Financial. And he gives Mejia this flyer, claiming they can earn a big fat rate guaranteed.
This is the flyer that he gave my husband, and he had the different investment plans depending on the amount of money. We were going to be investing $40,000, so in turn we were going to be receiving in interest 22%, which amounted to $750 a month.
The Mejias sign a contract for 6 months of payments.
You know, why not? I mean, to receive a check of $750 a month just by having the $40,000, it was better than putting it into a bank.
About 10 times better than putting it in the bank. Rodriguez is offering rates of return as high as 50%. But trusting investors have no idea how improbable Rodriguez's offer really is.
Sometimes I would think, you know, how does he do this? But we say, well, maybe he's investing in the stock market or in some other, you know, institutions that we don't know of, and maybe that's how he's getting the high interest rate.
And according to prosecutor Robert Luck, word spreads quickly.
It was a mom and pop word of mouth sort of thing. Someone would do well and get invested, and they would tell their family. They would say, "Hey, Mom, I'm investing with Mr. Rodriguez. You should go over there with me and see about investing with him. It's a great deal. Here's what I'm getting."
Soon, MDN Financial has more than 100 investors. And in June 2009, Rodriguez moves into a gated community along the coast. He appears to be a real success.
His wife is driving a BMW. His kids are attending private school. He's supporting his own children and his stepchildren. So this is someone who is living a very good lifestyle, while in 2008, 2009, 2010, a lot of the country is really suffering.
Next, friends of the miracle moneymaker discover he's really a two-timing tax man.
I mean, this was a friend that we trusted. And for him to do this to us, it's really, really shameful.
See more testimony from Rodriguez's best friends at AmericanGreed.cnbc.com. Want inside information from behind the scenes of the show? Join the Greed Social Network. Like us on American Greed's Facebook page. We'll be right back. In 2009, Miami accountant Juan Carlos Rodriguez claims to be a stock market guru. Investors in his company MDN Financial get unbeatable returns in an otherwise down economy. Araceli Valle has worked with Rodriguez for more than 20 years. First at an aircraft repair company, and now as his assistant. Over that time, the two have grown close. Her attorney, Michael Haber, speaks on her behalf.
If she needed surgery, if her financial planning was an issue, if her children were in jeopardy, whatever it was, there was a relationship there that she could trust his advice, or felt that she could trust his advice.
In November, Valle's husband of 22 years is diagnosed with lung cancer. She goes to her boss for financial guidance.
What should I do? I've got a mortgage. I've got children. There's college issues. There's all of these things that we have to consider and deal with. The first thing that he suggested was that she take out an equity line.
Knowing she will get a life insurance payment when her husband passes, Rodriguez suggests she take out a home equity loan of $65,000, then invest that money with him.
And then she would receive in exchange payments back on a bi-weekly basis of $1,500 every 2 weeks.
Over the next few months, she invests almost $125,000 with her boss. And Valle is thankful for the bi-weekly payments.
She's able to have a little bit of peace of mind. She's got extra time with her husband. Every moment that she has to spend with him is precious, and she doesn't have to worry about dollars and cents because she's got checks coming in.
What Valle doesn't know is that her money isn't coming from any investments of Rodriguez's.
Not a single dollar was invested in any sort of stock, bond, precious metal, or other standard investment. And it really was, in every way, a complete ripoff.
Rodriguez is just using new investors' money to pay off his existing clients and pocketing the rest. Now he's running out.
By the summer of 2010, things are dire. The money coming in isn't enough to pay both his obligations financially and the annuity payments he has obligated himself to pay.
But clients have no idea how broke he is, and his friends continue to flock to him for advice. In June, Mildred Giraldo walks into JC's office with some news. She's sold her administrative services business.
It's more money than we've ever had. I called Juan Carlos to see what can we do with this money. It's a lot of money. And he said, don't do anything. Don't go to the bank. Just come to my office. I'll meet with you in the back room. I do have to say that he's never shown so much interest in me as he did when this happened.
Rodriguez tells Giraldo she will have a huge tax burden as a result of the sale. But if she invests the proceeds with his MDN Financial, she can write it off as an expense. Then he can pay it back to her on a weekly basis. She's inclined to trust his advice.
He was like a brother to my husband. I mean, truly, my husband considered him to be family.
The couple agrees to put in a total of $135,000. Some for 4% interest, and some with no interest at all.
He said, in 3 months, you will get your money back, and then we'll do your taxes and everything will be fine.
But it's not long before Rodriguez misses a weekly payment. In July, Giraldo's husband calls about the missing check. Rodriguez shrugs it off.
Well, he told Javier that it was not carved in stone, the agreement, and that only made me furious.
By October, the Giraldo's weekly payments have stopped coming altogether. But Rodriguez always has an excuse.
He kept making promises, kept blaming the banks, kept blaming the fact that it was a holiday, and the monies were just not coming in.
Finally, at this strip mall in Key Biscayne, Geraldo draws the line.
On October 27th, I was fed up with the runaround that Juan Carlos was giving me. So I gave him an ultimatum to meet me here at the bank at 11 a.m. with the full amount that he owed me, or I was going to the FBI.
Next on American Greed, Rodriguez faces his best friends in court.
He had a very cynical look. It was a look of, I could care less.
October 27th, 2010. At a bank in Key Biscayne, Florida, Mildred Geraldo waits anxiously for Juan Carlos Rodriguez. He owes her more than $100,000.
I waited for an hour inside the branch, and the person that I sat with felt really sorry for me because he could see the grief that I was experiencing while I was waiting.
At noon, Rodriguez is officially a no-show, and Geraldo goes ballistic.
I went completely crazy. I proceeded to report him to everyone I know. I called his office. I called everyone I could possibly call. And after that, I went directly to the FBI.
Geraldo and her fellow investors flood the FBI with complaints. Special Agent Cade Cannon takes the case.
From the very beginning, it was obvious that what Juan Carlos was offering was simply too good to be true, that a 50% rate of return in 6 months, no one can pay those kind of returns.
Authorities find that since 2007, Rodriguez has taken in $5 million in investments. Close to $4 million was paid back to some of his 115 clients. The other million?
There was no stable of cars, there was no private jets to Europe, but what you have here is someone living above his means and in a very good lifestyle.
In March 2012, agents arrest Rodriguez and charge him with 6 counts of wire fraud. He pleads guilty to 1 count, and on September 7th, his victims assembled in the courtroom for his sentencing hearing.
When he walked into that courtroom, he had a very cynical look. And it was a look of, I could care less.
Rodriguez pleads to the judge that he can make his victims whole.
Mr. Rodriguez believed he could always pay it back. He still believed he can pay it back. He asked the court to allow him to not be sentenced to jail at all so that he could work to pay back the investors the millions that they had lost.
But then his longtime friend and employee, Araceli Valle, takes the stand. She witnessed the scam up close, but had no idea what was happening.
That just shows you how good he was at kind of hiding what was going on and who he truly was, that his assistant, who worked with him day in and day out, didn't know what was going on.
Instead, Rodriguez stole $85,000 from her while her husband was on his deathbed. Her testimony is damning.
You got a guy with 20 years invested in a relationship with a married couple who looks a dying man in the eyes and the woman who he loves and professes that he's going to look after her, and then the whole while knows that he has absolutely no intention of doing that.
The judge ultimately sentences Rodriguez to 7 years, and he is ordered to pay back more than $1 million in stolen funds.
The court has ordered that for as long as Mr. Rodriguez lives, 10% of his income, in whatever form that is, needs to be paid back to the victims. So slowly but surely, money will accrue.
Mildred Geraldo and her husband are out more than $100,000, almost half the proceeds from the sale of her business.
This was a business that I built, and it was something that I worked really hard at accomplishing. And this man just came and just swiped it out from under us.
Mildred's husband, Javier, and the rest of the dudes still get together, but without their faithful leader, Rodriguez.
He's a brother to Javier. So the ultimate betrayal was to my husband. And that, of course, makes me very angry because there's no way that my husband does not feel responsible for what has happened.
Ophelia Mejia and her husband are out their $40,000 investment. But in 2011, they get another unpleasant surprise. An IRS bill for $25,000 in back taxes. Rodriguez's tax advice was a lie.
This is the letter that states that. It actually reads, you did not place your funds into a recognizable financial institution.
Mejia and her husband have to refinance their home to pay the unexpected bill. But again, it's the sense of betrayal by Juan Carlos Rodriguez that cuts deepest.
Financially, thank God we have health, and we both have good jobs.